Have you ever wondered who the richest person in all of history really was? Now, you might be thinking of some modern tech billionaire, maybe an oil tycoon. But the real answer? Well, it takes us all the way back to the 14th century, to a West African emperor whose wealth was so enormous, it's been described as literally incalculable. So let's get into the incredible story of Mansa Musa and his golden empire. So, who exactly are we talking about here? If your mind jumps to someone from the Gilded Age or Silicon Valley, you're not even in the same ballpark. No, the wealthiest person who ever lived ruled over a powerful African empire almost 700 years ago. And his story, well, it's one of the most fascinating tales in all of history. To try and wrap our heads around his wealth, think about this. If you took the fortunes of all the top billionaires alive today and added them all together, you still wouldn't even come close to what Mansa Musa had. His wealth wasn't just big, it was on a completely different level, something we can't really measure by today's standards. So the big question is, how does one person get that rich and powerful? You'd probably guess he was just born into it, right? But Mansa Musa's path to the throne was anything but guaranteed. It's actually this wild story that involves a lost king, a really ambitious sea voyage, and a huge twist of fate. Okay, so picture this. The year is 1312. The emperor at the time, a man named Abu Bakr II, gets this one single idea stuck in his head. He becomes absolutely obsessed with finding out what's on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. So he puts together this huge expedition, and just before he leaves, he hands over control of the empire to his trusted regent, a guy named Musa. That first expedition, it ended in total disaster. We're talking 300 ships, and only one came back. The captain told this terrifying story about a giant whirlpool that just swallowed the entire fleet. But the emperor, he wasn't deterred. He personally led a second fleet, this one even bigger, 3,000 ships. He sailed off and was never, ever seen again. And just like that, with the emperor gone, the regent Musa was crowned the new Mansa, the emperor of Mali. So now Musa is on the throne, and he has this incredibly ambitious goal to make Mali the wealthiest, most powerful empire on the planet. And to pull this off, he came up with a strategy that was both brilliant and, honestly, pretty ruthless. His game plan was really straightforward, built on two powerful ideas. First, conquest. He was going to go out and take control of any territory that had valuable stuff. Second, taxation. Once he had control, he would create a monopoly on the trade of those resources, making sure every bit of profit flowed right back to the empire. He went straight for the economic jugular. His main targets were the two most valuable things you could get your hands on at the time: gold and salt. He launched military campaigns to conquer not just the big trading cities, but more importantly, the mines where these resources came from. By expanding his borders, he basically got his hands on the levers of the entire West African economy. And here is the absolute genius of his strategy. He figured out he didn't even need to own the mines. Instead, he just put a heavy tax on everything that came out of them. Every ounce of gold, every block of salt, which, by the way, was just as valuable as gold back then, and every kola nut. This tax system was so ridiculously effective, it paid for his entire empire. He knew that the real power wasn't in owning the resources, but in controlling the trade. But, conquering an empire is one thing. Actually holding it all together is a whole different ballgame. Mansa Musa's new territories were filled with all sorts of different cultures and religions, and keeping everyone in line required a strategy just as smart as his economic one. Pretty early in his reign, a lot of the communities he conquered, especially the ones that didn't follow his Islamic faith, started to rebel. Now, he definitely had the army to just crush them, but he was smart enough to know that you can't build a stable, wealthy empire on fear alone. And this is where we see his political brilliance really shine. He made Islam the official state religion, which kept things smooth with his powerful Islamic neighbors. But, and this was an incredibly clever move, he allowed total religious freedom for everyone else in the empire. People could practice whatever they wanted. That single act of tolerance pretty much stopped internal rebellions in their tracks, which meant he could focus all his energy on what he did best, making money. All right, fast forward to 1324. Mansa Musa is about to embark on the Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca. Now, for any Muslim, this is a profound spiritual journey.
But for Mansa Musa, it was also something else. It was a perfectly calculated move to show off his empire's incredible wealth and put Mali on the world map once and for all. I mean, his pilgrimage was a spectacle on a scale that's hard to even imagine. Think of a moving city of 60,000 people, soldiers, officials, entertainers, all crossing the Sahara Desert. And get this, at the heart of it all were 12,000 slaves, and every single one of them was carrying a solid gold bar. The sheer amount of wealth on display is just mind-boggling. His caravan was carrying nearly 20,000 kilograms of pure gold. And what's really crazy is that none of this gold was for trade or to make him richer. It was all meant to be given away as charity to the poor in the cities he passed through. But all of that generosity had this stunning and totally unintended side effect. In big cities like Cairo, he handed out so much gold that he flooded the market. The value of gold just plummeted, which in turn caused the prices of everyday goods to skyrocket. He literally caused massive hyperinflation that destabilized the economy of the entire Middle East for over a decade. It was unbelievable. One man's charity had caused a massive economic crisis. Well, Mansa Musa had done it. The whole world now knew about Mali and its fabulously wealthy king. But the amazing empire he'd built, all that wealth, all that power, it really all rested on the shoulders of one man. And that, right there, was its greatest weakness. And this brings us to the final, kind of tragic chapter of the story. After Mansa Musa died in 1337, the leaders who came after him just didn't have his skills. Corruption started to spread like wildfire, and all those different territories he had so carefully held together started to rebel and break away. The massive economic engine he built just sputtered and died, and the great Mali Empire collapsed. And so, his story leaves us with this really powerful question, doesn't it? Mansa Musa built an empire of truly unparalleled wealth and influence. But maybe it was too tied to him, built in his own image. His story is just this timeless lesson about how fragile power can be and how hard it is to build a legacy that can actually survive its creator.